Welcome back.
Last one. Oh, this is the actual last one. Let me get a timestamp. 5:33.
So we started this at 2:20. I thought it was gonna take an hour,
I told him it wasn't.
and we have been.
3.5 hours.
We've
3
been
hours,
here.
10 minutes.
That's right. For you.
Just for you.
I hope all you guys watched all of them.
I hope you all get hundreds.
I hope.
Except
you guys
Alex.
Except
and
Alex.
Nico. Alex and Nico. I hope you fail.
Nico Corvalin, not Savino. Actually, Savino too.
Yeah, with all three of them.
Who's the third?
Nico, Alex.
Oh, Alex. Yeah. Sorry.
Can't forget Alex.
Can't forget Alex. All right. So the Cold War.
Wait, can you just introduce this real quick?
Yeah. All right. So nice ones. So after World War II, the world split into two rival groups. The United States promoted democracy and capitalism, and the Soviet Union promoted communism and a command economy. Each side believed that the other wanted to dominate the world, and each side kind of wanted to dominate the world themselves. And this competition, called the Cold War, lasted for over 40 years. It was full of tension, but there was no direct war between the two superpowers. There was no direct war between America and USSR. There was proxy wars. A proxy, if you don't know, is kind of when you hire someone to do a job for you. Like, there were wars between an American-owned thing and a USSR-owned thing. What are you showing them?
Alright, continue.
All right, yeah. This last one, this is gonna be.
We're losing it here.
Yeah.
We're a little delusional.
We're just a little delusional. I forgot.
Delirious.
All right,
That's what I meant
next
to say. I
section.
meant to say delirious.
Building of the Cold War, containment, and the Iron Curtain. Now, Winston Churchill said an Iron Curtain had fallen across Europe. Churchill, as in Britain. Winston Churchill from Britain.
Alright.
He-
So, what he means by that, Iron Curtain, it's not an actual wall, obviously. It was just like an ideology that now Europe had been split. Wait, I actually want to pull up the test review sheet for this unit. Cold War. Alright, sorry. I'm going to just go off the dome here instead of the notes. Okay. Because I remember this very well. I'll do this, honestly. Iron Curtain, imaginary wall. It was not actually there, but it sort of separated East and West Europe because the West was democratic and the East was communist, and the East was a part of the USSR. So containment. That was the plan for the United States to try and contain the spread of communism worldwide. Domino theory. The US feared that if one country fell to communism, a lot of neighboring countries would fall as well. Truman Doctrine.
Again, control. You think of containment, you think of control. There are a lot of different definitions of control. And you get something that's from another definition of control, and you get something like this, you can talk about the differences and the similarities.
Truman Doctrine was the US promising to give aid to any country resisting communism. You understand? The US literally would do anything to stop communism. The Marshall Plan was very similar, which was billions of dollars that were sent to rebuild Western Europe. The US feared that France and a lot of other places in Western Europe were weak and they were going to fall to communism. So the countries that they felt needed it the most, they gave billions of dollars to. And if any countries requested aid militaristically, economically, they were also willing to give that due to the Truman Doctrine. Then we have the formation of NATO, which was the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, which was a military alliance to defend democracies, which the Soviet Union immediately responded with the Warsaw Pact, which was the exact same thing just for communism. And it sort of shows how anything the US did, the Russia copied, or vice versa, sort of like the race to space. Yeah, go ahead.
Mr. Mulvaney, if you're watching this is a clip of Alex playing games in your classroom. See if you could zoom in on that. Just, come on.
So, Germany was. Wait, do I want to start with this? Yeah. Germany is the first thing we'll talk about. Germany was split. West Germany, which was supported by the US, democratic. East Germany, controlled by the Soviets, communist. So basically.
Iron Curtain has descended.
Yeah, so there was the Berlin blockade. So the Berlin Wall was created. So.
Separated
In
Germany.
1948, the USSR, they blocked West Berlin, which was the capital of Germany, right?
Yeah.
And the US responded with the Berlin Air List. Basically, the Soviet Union stopped West Germany from getting resources. So
Again, because oh my God, would love to write this down. I'd love to draw it out, but we can't. We're not. Good thing. So. Germany was split and Berlin was split. Berlin was located. Let's move the camera.
I'll let you hold it. Do you want me to hold it?
Yeah, hold it.
to hold it real quick. We'll keep
POV
it-
action.
Alright, I'll hold it.
Alright, yo. So, this is Germany. This is Berlin. Now, Germany is divided right here, right? This, and this is Berlin, right? Berlin is also divided right here, right? The big Germany is divided into two. This is the west side. This is
Democratic.
the democratic side. This is the communist side. That's the east side. Now, this is also split in two. This is the west side, and this is the east side. Now, in order to get materials, you got to go from here into communist Germany to get to non-communist Berlin. So what Russia did is they just blocked this. So here's America over here. They're like, all right, we're just gonna send some planes.
We're just gonna fly over your freaking blockade.
And the USSR was like, nah, you can't do that. But they did, and they kept doing it. You know why? Because America has
It's the
a
best.
surplus of stuff. It's the same thing. America's allowed to take risks, just like we saw with Britain in the Industrial Revolution and a bunch of other things. Again, all these themes are intertwined.
So, back to here. We have the other conflicts. Oh wait, actually, I really want to talk about this. Germany, East, West. West doing so well. Economy is prospering. What did you just?
I'm sorry, I'm getting a little too comfortable.
The economy is prospering. And living conditions are very good. East Germany, the economy is in ruins. They're communist. It's a strict regime, and the people obviously don't like that. A lot of people started fleeing East Germany into West Germany, so the Berlin Wall was built to prevent that. Woo! So now we have other Cold War conflicts. The Korean War, North Korea, communist, South Korea, non-communist. Just think about it this way. North and East were communist, South and West were democratic. So North Korea versus South Korea, basically the US did not, North Korea tried to put communism into South Korea, and they didn't stop the spread of communism, but they did. Basically, the war went back and forth, and eventually it wasn't an actual signed treaty, but both sides just agreed to just stop fighting and stick with what they have, which is still a separation that lasts today, sort of showing the everlasting effects. They have a demilitarized zone in between the two of them, where there are no weapons allowed, and the U.S. didn't make North Korea democratic, but they also didn't let South Korea become communist.
They contained it in a way so some of it actually became communist, but they stopped the domino effect that they theorized. So.
Yeah. So wait, just one second.
Yes. Okay.
No, yeah, wait. So this is important. South Korea wasn't democratic; they were just non-communist, and it shows how the U.S. would support anything but communism.
Yeah.
Now we have the Cuban Missile Crisis.
That happens a lot. By the way, when you don't like two groups, you send
Yeah.
things to the group you like the least. Again, that's all to conserve power.
Cuban Missile Crisis, which is when the USSR planted missiles in Cuba, but little did they know. Well, Cuba is very close to the U.S., by the way, and little did they know we had missiles in Turkey. So they.
No, they knew.
No, we told them. We were like, yo, like if you do these Cuba missiles, or no, I don't know, whatever, then we're gonna blow up you guys. So then they took the missiles out of Cuba, and Cuba did fall to communism. There was a whole revolution that the U.S. tried to stop with the Bay of Pigs invasion, but it failed miserably, and it was a huge embarrassment to the U.S. because they had just lost to the communists. So Fidel Castro came into power.
Ruled that with an iron fist. And
Yeah.
some people did flee from Cuba to Florida. Shout out Ben's grandpa.
Yep, Benny Cuesta. Illegally. So now we have the Vietnam War, which is where the U.S. tried to stop communism in South Vietnam, but failed. Ho Chi Minh was the leader of North Korea, and he spread communism to South Korea. You got this.
All right. The fall of the Soviet Union.
How was that? I have no idea what's going on inside. Yeah, I remember this. The fall of the Soviet Union, Gorbachev Revolution. So 1980s, Soviet Union in trouble. And it's going to take over.
You want to check that out?
What? Yeah, I'll go check that out.
Now, the economy was very weak. There were shortages of goods. The war in Afghanistan and many other areas. Can you see me?
Yeah.
See this?
Yeah, you're good.
And disasters like Chernobyl showed the system's failure. Chernobyl was a nuclear power plant. It destroyed. It was
in Ukraine.
It was in Ukraine. It was right on the border of France. It was like Ukraine.
Basically, there was a huge leak, and it wasn't even the Soviet. The Soviets tried to like hide it because they didn't want to show their weakness. But the radiation showed up on like a heart sensor map, like in COD, like a heart sensor map, where like you see people. The radiation like showed up, so people the Western powers noticed it, and they're like, oh my god, like this is happening to them. So that sort of exposed them as weak. Their economy was weak. There were shortages of goods. The war in Afghanistan drained money. Did you say all that? Okay, then so Stalin's a little bit old. So,
Really? And this is not as much because of like ignorance. It's more just because of the communist system in general. It's not as efficient. It's not as
so bad.
what?
All right, no, here we gotta finish this. I'm done.
We're so close.
Gorbachev comes into power because Stalin too old. I don't even know. Did he die? Maybe. So he tried to reform the USSR because he saw that the economy that they weren't doing too well. And Putin, the Russian leader today, says that Gorbachev is the worst thing that ever happened to the Soviet Union. He is extremely incorrect. Gorbachev was just a little bit more moderate than a lot of the radicals in the Soviet Union, and he tried to compromise by using some Soviet tactics and some Western tactics. But ultimately they failed, and they blame him for the fall of the Soviet Union, even though he was one who just tried to save it.
Yeah.
So we have Glasnost, which
It was too little too late. It was
Yeah.
in the right direction, but everything was crashing.
Exactly. They had Glasnost, which was openness. It meant more freedom of speech. And what is it, Perestroika, which was economic reform. They used free markets and parts of capitalism, and it sort of showed how they were sort of succumbing to parts of westernization.
But the thing is, when you do that,
Go ahead.
more problems open up. There's a connection to like kind of like a house, like a really old house. If you kind of,
No, keep going.
if you kind of what? Oh my, you weirdo.
So,
Oh my god.
all right, now comes a very, very significant year.
Wait, I was talking. I was
Oh, I'm
talking.
sorry. Go
Oh
ahead.
yeah, so when you introduce these reforms, again, communism, it's very unstable. When you introduce these new reforms, more areas that could be exploited eventually come out, and it leads to more corruption and more bad things that again cause it to collapse.
So now these changes came too late. The Soviet Union collapses, and a lot of the individual countries that were part of it get sovereignty. And with sovereignty, they want democracy. They don't want oppression that they faced for all these years. So 1989, a very significant year. Berlin Wall comes down. Germany is reunified, but there's still very distinct differences. The western half is still doing a lot better. Yeah.
It took a while for the eastern half to
to catch back up.
reacclimate.
And it shows how bad communism was. A lot of Eastern European nations were able to hold free elections, and most importantly, Mr. Mulvaney migrated to the United States in 1989.
Migrated.
What?
Immigrated.
It doesn't matter. So in 1991, the Soviet Union collapsed, and Gorbachev resigned. Whoa. Gorbachev resigned.
I
stepped
read
down.
like re-signed
Yeah,
too.
like a contract.
Yeah.
So the USSR, it split into independent places, and they were still technically together because they were still economically interlinked. So they were called the Commonwealth of Independent States. So now Russia, it was just Russia now, and they have Boris Yeltsin, this new leader, and they're like, all right, what do we do? So he tried to do shock therapy. Instead of gradually introducing change, he tried to do everything right then and there. A sudden shift to capitalism out of nowhere, which caused inflation, poverty, social chaos. But it did lay the groundwork for future reform. So, thank you guys so much. We are finally done.
It's been real. I
5:45.
hope this was helpful. I hope that they're actual like.
I hope this was worth it. Because I
I learned a lot. You guys learned a lot. Trevor learned a lot.